welcome to the 10th anniversary edition of the Rebelle Rally Live Show presented by Toyota. It is a chilly morning here at Base Camp 1 west of the town of Tonopah, Nevada. This is day 3 of competition on the Rebelle, the longest competitive off-road rally in the United States. This is also the start of day 2 of our first marathon stage. I'm Alyssa Roenigk, next to me is Matthew Johnson, and together we will be your hosts and guides through the next 7 days of competition here on the Rebelle. And if you see behind us, unlike most morning shows, there are no competitors lined up at the start line. That's because they finished the first day of their marathon stage about an hour and a half drive for us.
Yeah.
10 and a half hours drive for them yesterday up in the town of Belmont. And so for those of you who watched the show last night, Belmont's about 2,500 feet higher even than we are here, about 7,500 feet. It was cold last night, so if we woke up chilly this morning, those competitors woke up pretty cold. They had a tough day yesterday, and so they are just now getting back out onto the course, and we will see them back here at the end of day 2 of this marathon stage at our finish line show a few hours from now.
That 2,000 feet last night translated into about 12 or 13 degrees cooler, and it got like high 30s here last night. So I'm pretty sure we had some shivering sleepers last night up there. We're going to hear all about it at the end of the day. I'll tell you, I was shivering here myself. When I woke up, though, it's like only the alarm told me to get up. Usually there's racket, there's teams everywhere, there's noise, there's lights flashing.
Emily Miller's bell, her cowbell at 5 a.m., precisely 5 a.m.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity to kind of wake up and integrate yourself with on a typical Rebelle morning. As you can see, the desert's waking up with us here. We're happy to be reporting low wind conditions and a really beautiful morning, actually. So they're on day 2 of the marathon. We're going to run you through that best we can here, and minus Emily Miller. We'll have her later in the day. So you can see it's a bit shorter, 290K. What was yesterday, 322, I remember?
Yeah, so it's still a long day. It's still a long day, but it is, a little shorter than yesterday. If you see the difficulty level, once again after yesterday was a 3. Today's a 3 out of 5. If you remember last night, we had Jimmy Lewis on the show, and he said he gave yesterday about a 5 or a 6.
A 6,
so
yeah.
it was a tough day, and we'll get to more about this marathon stage later in the show, but we talked to a lot of the competitors, and I don't think we spoke to a single competitor who didn't struggle at some point with either the navigation or the driving yesterday.
Yeah, it was a big day, and I'll tell you, today the penalty could be a little bit different, because if you look down the right side of that icon on the screen, you'll see that they're skirting Area 51 today. Out here in this part of the desert, it's common to see, actually maybe not common, but it's not uncommon to see some random airplane flying above or something cool in the sky, as we are adjacent here to Area 51 for part of today. But let's go have a look at the Mapbox flyover, and we'll do our best to kind of dance with you through it. This basically gives you a great idea of just what they've got in front of them for today.
And look how beautiful. Just take a minute and take in the campground that they are starting this from. Look how they are just right in that valley between these beautiful mountains. It's one of the most beautiful campgrounds in this country. So they were waking up, they went to sleep. I think most of them got there in the dark. They woke up and had just a really stunning setting for their
and they
plotting
have set
this morning.
off, if you're watching at home on the tracker, they have set off as early as 6:45 this morning, so that's now. And so we've got some teams minute by minute heading out, getting their day started. So some of these longer transitions, you can see that looks straight-ish to you, but there's wiggles and sand and such in some of these. But some of the other longer transitions of these days are the Rebelle Enduro challenges, which they have to drive a specific speed to get a right time and show up at the right checkpoint on time.
And you see there, they're driving through some really stunning, quiet Nevada backcountry. They just passed that second green checkpoint. If you remember, those checkpoints are worth the most points. They also have aggressive closing times because they are meant to move the competitors through the course. You have to make decisions to, if you're taking a lot of time on some of your checkpoints, to give up some of the blues and blacks and get to, here we have the third green coming up, to get to that green checkpoint before it closes. And that's meant to make sure that the competition is moving along and everyone is going to make it to that final checkpoint.
The area you just watched them descend through a wash. I mean, it's so cool being able to see how water moves through and shapes the desert. And so when we talk about washes, they're driving down the way the water flows.
And then you'll see at this checkpoint I was just pointing out, the last green, they're going to have an option to take some X checkpoints. They have quite a few. They have four greens, 7 blues, and 21 black diamond checkpoints. They have 32 total, but 23 scoreable checkpoints today. That means there are 9 X checkpoints. That's a lot of decision making out on this course. So again, as Matthew said, when you see what looks like these long, fast sections, those are going to be sections where it's so important to stop, get out of the vehicle, and take a lot of headings, because they're going. You see that split right there. If you can see it on this topography right now, and you can see it on, say, they're on a 100 map, you're going to stop at that point and make sure you are where you think you are and that you are on the right road. This is a lot easier for us. That blue line is moving for us through the course. And there you see right ahead, they're going to be coming. That's where we're sitting, is at that finish.
Headed back towards the Monte Cristo Mountains and some silt beds. For those of you not familiar, a silt bed literally is like driving through talcum powder. It's not sand. It's just way thinner than sand, and it gets everywhere. If you've got a window open going through a silt bed, your whole car is going to be soaked in this stuff. So a big overview of the big adventure of day 2 of their marathon, which is actually day 3 of the Rebelle Rally competition this year.
Yeah, and if you remember yesterday's overview, they essentially made a big loop. They started here at Base Camp 1. You can sort of fit those 2 maps together and see where they started, came up around, and then dropped down into Belmont, and then they started went back up to Dirty Dick's, and then headed south, and then made their way back to here. So it's a very cool course. You know, they're not repeating any of the areas they were in, not repeating any of the driving. So it's just really incredible high desert technical driving and navigation the last 2 days.
Yeah, and on the Mapbox overview, you see the colors of the mountains. That's real. That's not made up. I mean, they're just beautiful, different minerals and stuff coming out of the ground here in Nevada. Obviously, that's why there was so much mining in Nevada, is because you can just see the minerals seeping to the surface. And all the different just land formations are just stunning, really.
And we also heard we saw a lot of beautiful fall foliage and snow yesterday at the top of Ophir Pass, but we'll get more to that in a minute. I think right now we have our third team member, our third teammate to bring onto the show. I think Katy's been looking for a better place to rest her head in the evenings. Katy and I are sharing a tent out in the camping area. It's been chilly in that tent, so Katy, I hear that you are on a reporting mission to find a better a better sleeping situation here at the Rebelle Rally. Who are you with? Who are you with right now? Oh.
Good morning. Well, we all know that Emily Miller likes to throw curveballs to the competitors, but this morning she's thrown us a curveball and given us the behind-the-scenes job at 6:45 in the morning. I'm apologising to everyone sleeping around me who's now going to hate me. I do know that the person in this tent is friendly, and her name is Maria Guitar, and I'm just going to see if she's willing to... Maria? She's our head of Startline, and hopefully she's... Good morning. How are you? Is that condensation?
Yeah.
Oh.
A
Ooh.
little soggy. Oh, it's a nice.
Can I sit on that? Oh no, those are chips. I just had on her chest. Emily Miller, thank you. Okay, there's a sign in here that you guys can't see that says "Home Sweet Home." Please remove shoes. No sand at all. Okay, I'm definitely not welcome in this home. Maria, good morning. I'm really sorry.
Good morning. I forgive you.
Thank you. You're the head of the Startline. What does that job entail?
Well, after the ladies get them lined up for impound, they stop at one station to make sure they have their satellite trackers on, their satellite phones, helmets on, buckled, seatbelts on, and then when they pull up to me, I'm the one who sends them off on their minute.
Now, you were a Rebelle. What year did you compete? Years?
I did 6 years, 2018 through 2023.
So being a Rebelle and being on the start line, I'm there every morning. It's really exciting, but it's really terrifying. Have you had any close calls with dishevelled Rebelles off the start line?
Yeah, sometimes, people aren't quite ready to go, which I can relate to because you always want to get as many of your checkpoints plotted before you leave base camp and you want to have your enduro math done. So, yeah, some people push it.
Okay, so I'm a Rebelle. I come out of the tent with my maps, and they're often like blowing in the wind. I get to my car. Can you take me through the step-by-step process of getting from your vehicle into your vehicle to you at the start line?
So they run out to their vehicle and they jam all their stuff into their vehicle. And then Kara and Leah make sure that they're in line and on time because everybody has a start order. And then, yeah, they buckle their seatbelts.
How do they get the start order? Like, how do you know which order is start?
Okay. So some days they're seated based on their previous day's performance in the enduro. And some days they draw a start number from a baggie of random numbers, and they do that on the finish line the day before.
Okay, so then what happens after that? They're now in the line. That's when I'm talking to them. The navigators wind up their windows, and I only get to talk to the drivers because they're so busy plotting. Then what happens?
They get themselves organized. Like I said, like make sure you have your helmets on, seatbelt on, satellite phone, tracker. Make sure you have all your plotting supplies handy and ready to go. And probably at that point they're freezing cold, so they're also putting their hands by their heaters.
A bit like us this morning. Now, quickly, I want to know a little bit about your living conditions. You've got your bright hat, so nobody runs you over, which is quite good for the start line.
Yeah, I've got my bright hat.
Those
I have
gum
my
boots?
Lashes, yeah.
Why?
Lashes, and well, I heard that we might have rain, and I got a poncho in here somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, I know where to come when the rain comes. She bought galoshes. Holy shit.
You see the sand?
And there's a little bit of sand in there. Okay, I'm gonna let you go back to sleep. What time do you normally wake up?
Probably right around 5 o'clock to.
And this was your sleep in?
Yeah, this is our sleep.
I'm so sorry.
But we still love you.
I'm so sorry.
At 5 anyway.
Oh my goodness. Can I help you shut that?
All right, help me shut it.
Oh my god. No, no, I can't. I can't live in there. There's no way I'm living in there. But look at this one. Good morning. Oh, Leah.
Sunshine.
How are you?
So happy right now to be awake this early.
Do you mind if we have a quick chat?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, what is your job on the Rebelle?
I work on the finish line and the start line, so I like to think of us as like the emotional support crew for the competitors. We're the first ones to talk to them in the morning and the first ones to say goodbye.
And what time do you normally have to wake up?
5 a.m. It's not 5 a.m. right now.
I'm sorry, have you had your coffee?
No, did you bring some?
No, I'm really sorry. I'm apologizing to everyone. All right, I'm just going to let you go back to bed. This,
I'm already dressed now.
can you come and help our team? We're struggling with behind the scenes at 6:45.
Katy.
Back to you, Matthew and Alyssa.
That's great.
Katy, that was so much fun, and I thought you were only going to you started heading to a even smaller tent than the tent you and I are sleeping in. So I thought that you're not doing a great job of finding a better situation for yourself. But that was so much fun, and that was such a good way of explaining the start line, the women who are at the start line, because it does feel like sometimes they are your emotional support animal,
Yeah.
your emotional support Rebelle staff, because it's true. They're the last person. They're encouraging you. They're saying like, go out and, have a great day. You're
Yep.
so in your head. There's so much anxiety and nervous energy at that start line. So it was really fun to hear from them. So now we're gonna hear from our competition director Chrissie Beavis, and she's gonna walk us through some of the penalties that drivers and navigators can incur here on the Rebelle.
One of the most common penalties we have is called a wide miss penalty. And that's when you signal your tracker outside of the radius of your The black diamond checkpoints have a bullseye style radius. The middle of the bullseye is full points, say that the wide miss penalty is a payment for information. Because that tracker tells you what your latitude and longitude is. So you can get super lost. Call dispatch and you can say, I need to or you can fix it yourself by signaling your tracker, paying the temporary penalty, and knowing what your current latitude and longitude is, and plot that on your map. You don't get any more penalties until the next time you've signaled your tracker and your radius is 4
I didn't want that system where you're just constantly worried about incurring penalties. Penalty. It's a beatdown. Instead of being focused on penalties, it's just focused on how can I get the great score? How can I play it safe yet have calculated risks?
That system of the wide miss penalty took us a few years to develop because we didn't realize what some of the problems were going to be for the teams. We didn't know what they were while that penalty was not really popular the first year that we proposed it, the teams now really like it because it's a payment for information that they can use at any point to know
Those black diamond checkpoints, I think, really are one of the coolest twists, and one of the, it's really the backbone of this competition. It is where the competition is won or lost. The top teams don't even look at the non-X checkpoints. They're all going for the black. They're all going for the black X's, and there is something really incredible about there not being a flag, there not being a stake in the ground. You know you are where you think you are. You hit your button, and when that lat and long come back and you go and plot it and you are dead on, it is the most
jackpot, huh?
incredible feeling.
Cool.
When you're off, it's a little bit of a it can change your mental game throughout the day. But it also, like Chrissy was saying, one of the nice things about it, and especially as they have widened the circles have widened, that wide miss, you're going to be most likely within the 800 meters. And if you're not, the information that you get by clicking that tracker and getting your lat and long and plotting it and going, okay, well, now I know we're here. How did we get here? How do we get from here to here? It's so valuable sometimes. And for a lot of these teams who aren't going for the win, that information is worth the 10 points. So it really is I think the most pivotal part of this competition are those black X checkpoints, the black diamond checkpoints, and especially the X ones. It is it takes a Rebelle to really figure it out. A lot of the teams we've talked to, I had a couple women who I met who are here as rookies. We're going for the win, and okay, let's talk to you on day 3. I think it does, like any competition. It takes a year or two, to really figure out the game before you really can be a team that's going for a win.
And it's not just a year or two of competing here. It's a year or two of doing a lot of work away from here, like on your weekends, and a lot of investment in that. Speaking of investments, like you were saying, the 10-point penalty, that's an investment. If it gets you on, and then now you have an anchor to get to more checkpoints.
Absolutely.
So yeah, maybe that checkpoint doesn't pay off because you had to get the penalty, but now you set yourself up to win maybe a row of more black diamonds.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you make a mistake and you don't fix it quickly, like the women were saying. I remember Andrea saying last night, if you make a mistake, you go back immediately to
fail
the point
quickly
where you last were. If you don't do that, you're just compounding the mistake and compounding the mistake,
suffering
and then your day is gone, right? So take that 10-point penalty, but you go get the 25 points at the green, and it was worth it. You're up 15.
Yeah. Now you're up. So we've got some other fun stuff today. We are going to try to drag in Chrissy. She's always busy with something, but our competition director, also my wife, big piece of this deal. We're going to see if she can kind of dance us through some of the scores and help us bring to you the interesting details maybe in the scoring. So speaking of scoring, let's look at how many checkpoints they're going to have today to to go for in 4x4. So there's 4 greens. The last of those greens, remember, is arriving here at the base camp. Those are worth 25 points each. So again, if you're looking at the scoring near the end of the day, but all of the cars aren't back yet, those could be adjusting as the points are coming in. So that final 25 points you need to put in your mental score box. So for the Blues 7, Blues 21 of the Black Diamonds, you'll see there's 32 checkpoints out there, but if you take the X routes and you take some of the other options, you're really only going to be able to get a total of 23. Now, even though there's 23 total collectible, even a top team may only get 21 of them because you get in that time pinch, right? That you've got to get in the back time window of a green or getting back to camp on time.
I think a lot of teams had to make that decision last night.
For sure, yeah.
They knew that their final green was about to close. There were 2 or 3 more checkpoints between them and that green, and they had to just bypass those and get to that green
and get there.
Yeah, it wasn't worth giving up that final 25 points to go and collect a couple more blues.
Let's see what X Cross has for today for checkpoints as well.
So their checkpoints pretty similar. You have one fewer blue checkpoint. You have 15 black diamonds, and one of the things to remember is, you know, with the 31 total checkpoints for the 4x4 and the 25 for the X Cross class, even though you know you are going to go for the X's, you're a team that's going for the win, you plot all 25 of those checkpoints, because what you want to do, you want to see where those are on the map, especially if there are a couple that are really close to one another. You want to know that when you get, we've talked about a false checkpoint, we've talked about rolling up on someone else's checkpoint. If you have those plotted on your map, you know, hey, the X and the regular blue are really close to each other.
Yeah.
So if you have those plotted, it's going to make you much more precise. You know, hey, we really need to take a precise heading here. We need to triangulate right now, make sure that we are not on the regular, you know, blue 17 and not 17X. And so you're plotting all 31 checkpoints. So this morning, when everyone woke up in the desert in their camping spot, they got their checkpoint list last night when they clicked at the last green. They're really not plotting those. Maybe they did some last night in the cold and in the dark, but this morning they got up and plotted 31 checkpoints at their camp spot and then took off for the day. So it's been a really big morning and a big 2 days, so I'm really excited for the finish line show tonight.
Same here. Let's see what Katy has come up with. She's always a creative, Katy, out there. Let's see who you've got, Katy. What's happening?
Good morning. I'm here and there's the sun and it's kind of warm, but man, I am feeling for those Rebelles right now who had to sleep out in their tents. Some of them may have decided to sleep in their cars, but Kramer, can you see the tents behind me? That's where the Rebelles were camped yesterday. And someone's left a tent there, and I'll find out at the finish line if they left their tent by accident and they had a miserable night last night, or they brought spare tents. It's curious to me. So we'll discover that on the finish line. But I know that we have our friend Andrea Bullard in here. Good morning. Hi, Andrea.
Good morning.
Is registration open?
Registration is not open yet.
Andrea is our competitor liaison, and she has a bed set up in here. So you crawl in here, and then your legs stretch all the way under there. This is cozy and a massive upgrade from Maria Guitar.
It's cozy. It's been my home for the past 9 Rebelle rallies and one this year. And I got it framed up now. So.
And of course, she's so dedicated to the Rebelle that she has less room than all of this stuff, which I know is Rebelle merch. I see lots of Rebelle hats here. Talking of hats, you wear way more than most people on this event. Tell me about your roles.
Competitor liaison being number 1. So I'm the competitor's first point of contact from the moment they register, sometimes before that point.
When does registration start?
Registration for the following year's rally typically opens within the last few days of the current year's competition.
Okay, so if I was watching right now and I wanted to join the Rebelle, I would just have to wait a little bit longer.
Keep your eyes on the live show. Keep your eyes on the website. Keep your eyes on social media.
Okay, so what else do you have to do during the year that none of us know about to keep the competitors happy and in touch?
Lots of pointing them in the right direction. We have a great organization of documentation that we use that gives them all of the information that they need on our end. And so it really comes down to them finding and seeking the tools that they need to prepare, such as our Rebelle University courses they can come and take. So just kind of keeping them in the loop of all things that they need to accomplish between registration and the start line.
And talk a little bit about Rebelle U. They can learn online with some of the classes that are available, and then we have trainings during the year.
Yeah, so when you register, you actually gain access to a whole collection of great online tools, including online navigation course. I was trying to think of the right word. When you buy something and it comes with
It's early, babe. We're all struggling this morning.
Did you bring me coffee?
No, but I'll go do that now. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry for waking you up. Oh, sorry, you weren't finished?
Yeah, I was just going to say the Rebelle U courses, though, are great. The in-person courses are great. And we usually have anywhere from 6 to 9 of them throughout the year. And there's really no better way to learn the hands-on, both practical and in the field skills that you need to come do this event than to come take a course from the very people who created it. So,
And there's a whole link to that on our website, Rebelle U. So I'm going to send it back to Matthew, Alyssa, and go and find another possible accommodation situation.
bring me coffee.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you, Katy. I think we have a new way of being woken up at the Rebelle Rally. Forget the cowbell. Katy just
Yeah, it's
goes
Katy.
around and knocks on everyone's tent. This is the new. But then she has to get up before everyone else. So I don't know if that's going to be her new chosen job. So
Well, I'll
stick
tell
with-
you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Andrea is one of those behind-the-scenes people that make the Rebelle happen.
Rebelle,
And she's
yeah.
so busy all year long, and she's so sweet, and she listens to teams as they kind of dump all of the struggles they're having to get to the start line on her.
It's
So
true.
she's
yeah.
just such
I mean,
a
Andrea,
stable platform for these teams to interact with.
She
So
knows-
we
she
can't say
knows-
enough
yeah.
nice stuff about Andrea.
Yeah,
really.
and you know, we should say if you're thinking about if you're watching this right now and thinking freezing and sleeping in a tent in the middle of the desert sounds like something for me. I want to get up at 4:30 and do math. But seriously, if you're thinking about doing the Rebelle, that was a fantastic interview because Andrea is going to be your first point of contact, and she's going to be the person who you're going to be in contact with throughout the year as you prepare your car and prepare yourselves and prepare your team to come here and compete. So stick around. We're going to be joined on set by Competition Director Chrissie Beavis after a quick break.
Pavement is optional. Total Chaos equipment is built for travel. Introducing our newest project vehicle, Seabiscuit, a Lexus GX 460. It combines luxury interior with performance off-road components. It's outfitted with our newest suspension package, designed specifically for KDSS models. Explore more.
Welcome back to the 10th anniversary edition of Rebelle Rally Live. This is day 3. Our show today is sponsored by Bilstein. If you're just joining us, you have missed some really fun, I think my new favorite segment of the show. Katy Talyancich wakes up Rebelle staff and does fantastic interviews.
Well, she tells me she's looking for another job. She
I think
wonders,
she's looking for a better place to sleep. She's tired of sharing a tent with me in the middle of the freezing cold desert. I don't think she's found a better sleeping arrangement yet, but we're going to have her keep going around and looking for a job that comes with a better sleeping arrangement than host of the live show.
That's what she's after.
I don't know if she's going to find it. You also, we've been talking about the great competition already through day 1 of this 2-day marathon stage. So we are very lucky to be able to pull away our competition director, Chrissie Beavis, from the tent for a little while. I know you're really busy this morning, as you are every morning, so thank you for being here.
You know, it's just nice to get out of the tent. There's a whole desert out here, and I don't usually see it.
Yeah, so here it is, Chrissie.
Yes.
It's a beautiful sunrise. It's starting to warm up for those of you who are really worried about our concerned about our health and fingers that were turning blue earlier. So yesterday was a pretty tough day.
Yeah.
You know, you guys graded it as a 3 out of 5. Jimmy last night said by the end of the day he thought it was more of a 5 or a 6.
Yeah.
For starters, what was so difficult yesterday for both the navigator and the driver?
Well, one of the things that became very difficult was that there was a lot of choices to be made. And as you guys have probably seen throughout the event, that making choices takes time, and you really didn't have the time yesterday. So these teams were having to make these choices early in the day to continue to move. And what we ended up seeing is that even though in the driver's briefing, Emily was very clear about that.
She was.
They didn't do that. And they took a lot of time in the morning and then had many kilometers to still drive through 2 high mountain passes in the Toyabe Forest. And they were just getting farther and farther behind and not really looking at the map and realizing how much farther they still had to go. And we heard from a couple of different teams yesterday that through my staff were complaining, well, if I'd only known it was this much farther, I would have made my choices differently. And you're like, well, you did have the map.
You did have the map.
Yes.
No,
and a way to measure distance.
We knew it was 322 kilometers yesterday. Did they know that?
Yes, they knew.
So they knew that.
They knew that.
Okay.
They were told in the driver's briefing. In fact, it was written very clearly. So when we do the driver's briefing, we also write it all in notes and we post that. So that even if it was something that we just said in the driver's briefing, it's also actually posted. And so the distance was known.
Well, and one of the things also is I know we keep saying that the competitors don't have their phones, they don't have GPS, but a lot of them bring old school cameras.
Yes.
With a display on the back. So
Yeah.
you take a picture of that. I took a picture of the competitors briefing yesterday. And so you're able to keep referencing that. And fuel consumption was something that was talked about in the meeting. Katy talked to a lot of the competitors. How are you going to deal with conserving fuel? How did that go yesterday? I think I heard a few of the teams maybe struggled with fuel
It went okay. There was really only one team that ended up getting on-course fueling. And they went to an actual fuel station that was north of the competition. And they only went there because they were lost up there. And then when they realized they were lost up there, they got in touch with our staff and knew that that they could go to, that they could request, can I go to this gas station? They get a penalty for that. It's 20-point penalty for requesting that on-course fueling. But if they do it without the request, then we don't really know what they do, and that could be disqualification because we don't know why they're there or who they're meeting there. So while we have tracking on them, we don't have tracking on everybody. So they were with staff. Our staff knew that they got fuel, but it was only one team.
Well, that's that decision making. We watched a piece earlier that you had filmed about some of the penalties. We were talking about wide miss penalties, or you were talking about wide miss penalties in that video. But that's another moment where you have to make that decision, right? Is it worth? Is 20 points better than being disqualified, right? Or
Yes.
is 20 points better than running out of gas in the middle of the desert, right? Those seem like some pretty easy calculations, even though in the moment I know it feels like the end of the world when you have to make that call and lose those 20 points.
I'd
But
like to just say something. We're talking a lot about penalties right now, right? It sounds like not very fun. The whole purpose of the penalties and all of the effort put into the rule book and stuff is to make a fair competition. And that is I think one of the things that you guys are most proud of, you, Emily, and the whole team, is that it is a fair competition. And the way to do that is you must have ways to discourage behavior that would make it unfair.
Right. And when I write the rule book and I put together these penalties, my theory behind penalties as a 25-year competitor is to have the absolute minimum penalty to keep the behavior from happening. Right, so you'll see in a lot of rule books and where that have been written by someone who wasn't a competitor, they're like, well, I don't want them to get fuel on course, so I'm going to give them a 80-point penalty, right? Well, that is beyond, right, what you actually need to keep them from doing it. 20 points. They do not want to get this 20-point penalty.
That's a whole green checkpoint lost.
That's a whole green checkpoint lost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bummer, but if you need the gas, you need it. And so it's only one green checkpoint. It's not your whole day, and it doesn't ruin your whole day. They can continue, and it's really is only 20 points. That's 2 wide misses,
right?
For getting to continue your day,
right? Yeah. And so when you looked at yesterday and you think about the way you designed the game to be played yesterday, and you looked at how it was played, who and where on the course did the teams win and lose the day?
Yesterday was one of the most interesting days I've seen in a long time because we had everyone kind of all the way from the top teams to the bottom teams just making different types of decisions, and sometimes it would play out for them and sometimes it wouldn't. And as you watch kind of the track, you see some people that did kind of keep their pace throughout the morning. Those are going to be the ones that actually kind of kept up that pace and moved up. So I'm going to go through kind of some of the standings where we're sitting from yesterday.
Oh, very cool. And what you're seeing on the screen is the computer Chrissie has in front of her. She is going to walk us through how both the 4x4 and X-Cross classes
So
check out Susan Piper there at the top.
Yes. So Susan and Elise really pushed through yesterday. You could see that they really, really were one of the ones that kept up that really good pace there. And then in X-Cross, no surprise there that Carrie and Andrea kept up that pace as well. But I'm going to go over here to the day scores, and let's click on day 2. So that's yesterday. And let's see what we have to see there. Now, if you guys don't know there at home, we've got kind of this new format for our scores. And I highly recommend expanding those day scores when you have a chance to, because you get to see all of the different checkpoints they have there. And we've got the scroll bar kind of up at the top there so that you can see that there were a lot of checkpoints to get yesterday, and that there was the X's and the regulars that they had to choose from.
And look at that. I mean, knowing how difficult yesterday was, knowing how difficult it was just to get all of your checkpoints, and then seeing that the top team scored 97% of the total points.
Yes.
It reminds you it's possible.
Right.
It was possible.
It was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get that 97%. And, as we were watching them in particular throughout the day, you could see that their pace really is why they did so well there. And clearly, most of these teams are skilled enough to get their plots and to know where these checkpoints are. But from there, they have to actually navigate to these points, right? So I always say there's kind of 2 parts to the navigation. There is plotting, and then there's the actual going out and finding these checkpoints. But you'll still see that even though we have, some of these top teams going for the X checkpoints, it's not too far down here, only in 12th place in A class here, or in the A group, we still have people getting quite a few points. Even though those
that's
aren't
fascinating.
X's, they were a little bit easier to get. We've got some blues in there, and so they were able to just go ahead and get those and keep moving. And so by not taking the X route on some of these, they were able to keep the pace up. We'll also go over to the 4x4B group.
That was Kristen and Allison, Team Desert Bells, that were the first ones that chose to not do the X route. I wondered if that was a good plan, given how, the potential for blocking the course, the tight areas there in the X route, and then clearly how many cars were definitely going to be up there.
Yeah, and one of the things about that, the non-X route, is you can see that they had some blues in there, and so that is a much faster checkpoint to get, right? A black diamond takes your time, but a blue, you can drive around, find the flag or the pole, and keep moving. So then you see here in the B group, all the way up in the fourth of the B group, they're starting to make that decision to go ahead and not do the X route and just push through and get almost full points here for those ones there. And you still, they still have up to 69% there, which is still quite good for yesterday. As you can see, as we get towards the bottom here, some people were having a really hard time, all of these people that were new to it.
That kind of decision making also to me says, your team, right?
Yes.
You know your skill level, you know what you're going to be able to do on this day, and that also, I would imagine, is probably a veteran competitor, right? Because the first time you have so many teams who come in and they're like, we're rookies, we're going to win this thing, and the only way we can do that is by going for every X checkpoint, and then you get to your fourth black diamond X checkpoint, and you
half the day is gone.
Exactly. And and then you start sort of panicking and making quick decisions, and your day just starts sort of those mistakes just start compounding and compounding.
Well,
so that to me says that's a seasoned competitor who knows themselves and they know this is the best choice for us.
Yes.
And now they're still in the top 10, even though they went for those.
Exactly.
Didn't go for the X's.
Your just ability to constantly adjust your priorities. Like, this was the priority, that has failed, this is the next priority.
Right.
But you've got to dynamically kind of change your plan through the day to keep on time.
So here I'm running you guys through the morning of day 2 and kind of where they went. So we've got base camp all the way down here. Here's the Roaming Wolves, whose Land Cruiser needed a new transmission yesterday. So that's why they were back there at base camp.
It's not sitting here right now.
It is not sitting here right now.
Where is it, Chrissy?
The mechanics fixed it, and they drove it up there, testing it, and our mechanics are so amazing. They did take 141. It is up at base camp, and I think or at the self camp, and then I think they're going to continue to.
Hopefully they're driving today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw those women up there plotting the checkpoints for the next day, just with their fingers crossed that
that their vehicle would come
call
join
out
them
for that 1991. They were looking for a transmission for a car.
Only 2 years that transmission.
It was made for 2 years. Yeah, they put a call out to find a unicorn, and no surprise, someone in the Rebelle community came through and
they did
got a transmission here in the middle of the desert.
Great. So while that transmission was going on back in base camp, here's the team's kind of mid-morning coming through, and you can see all the way over here that they weren't actually that far away from their finish. So over here is where they slept last night, but they had to go all the way up here. And some of them were the X route. The X route was down here, a little bit shorter, but the regular route had to come all the way up here and go through the Kingston Pass, which is all of these passes are just absolutely gorgeous. But as we're coming through here, you can kind of see some of these people. Here we go. We have the leaders in X Cross, right out front there. X Cross really moving along there. And as we're coming through there, you can kind of start to see how people are kind of taking their time. We've got someone all the way halfway through the pass here. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's
Becca,
the Becca and Becca.
Yeah, R2D2.
R2D2. Yeah.
And you can see that if you're watching this live yesterday, you could see your team either take that X route through the overpass or go up and around.
Yes. Yeah, so this was Ophir Pass, the highest pass we've ever gone through on the Rebelle Rally. And you can see how short of a distance it is there. And so they just went straight up and straight back down, and it was quite narrow. And so there were times when it was recommended that if someone got stuck in front of them to run up and help them, because you're going to be stuck too.
It was like, it will help you too to help them.
So you can see that we've got people in the passes all the way up in Kingston Pass and the Ophir Pass here, and we still have some teams back here straggling down there. And so these are going to be the teams back here that were just taking too much time, at that point.
And even if they left the line 15 minutes behind, you'd expect to see them kind of like up here in the game a little more, right?
Yeah, you really would.
I wanted to point out we could see some distribution of X-Cross that took both options. So X-Cross wasn't forced into the go around the pass. X-Cross could have done both yesterday.
That's right. Yeah, X-Cross had a lot of the same routes that 4x4 did. It was really only down here in the morning that 4x4 had a much rougher section that was their option and not the X-Cross option. But in the afternoon, they were able to go through both of those passes. So here is where we started to kind of see the point difference spread by people that were taking too long and people that were just really pushing through and continuing to move and not getting any late checkpoints there. And then they kind of all ended up kind of coming back together. So they spread out to the north, and then the X route went to the south. They all stopped by this green checkpoint here. I just want to point out to everyone that was watching the tracking yesterday, you'll kind of have seen them all stack up at this point, just a little bit farther from the green checkpoint, and that was because we had fueling available there. So our fuel truck was sitting there at that point, and all of the teams got to fill their tanks there at that spot. Here's our team here that ended up fueling up north there, and that they ended up coming all the way around and not doing the Kingston Pass. But then they joined up after fueling, and they came down through this section. You could also see that by some of those tracks, if I turn those tracks on, that a lot of the tracks went in places that they weren't actually supposed to go. So if we start to look at some of these tracks, we have quite a few tracks. It's not just their tracks here, but there was quite a few tracks that went up a wrong pass here. We have people trying to go up washes that it didn't work out for them. We have people going up another canyon here. I mean, you can see a lot of people.
Oh, wow. A lot of people made that
tried
mistake.
to come up through this canyon.
Well,
and that wasn't the right one.
And that's just time, right? And that's one of those moments, right, where if you sort of doubt yourself and you think maybe, and then you see one car, then another, you're going to think, okay, those are some of the top teams. They know what they're doing. They must be right. And you doubt your own belief system.
Right. You can see how many people here that were.
But that's a lot of time.
That.
So that's going south there and then just turning around.
And then just turning around.
Back.
They had to go back. This does not continue. And so they did have to go all the way up. And you can see that this blue checkpoint up here, and I really looked at the map on this one, and this road here is very hard to see on the map. It is on there. In this road, you can see it on the map as well, but you can tell that it does not continue. You can tell, but especially if you're looking at the way the topography is, if you follow the topography on the map, you can see that there's no way to get from this canyon to that blue checkpoint. And so at that point, you really had to get out your magnifying glass there on that map.
Because it was a 1 to 200,000 scale map, is that correct?
Yes, in this section, it was 100,000. Yeah, so they had 100,000 in this. But even so, the topography and the trails look a lot alike. So there's those topo lines on the map, and it was really hard to tell the difference between these and which, what was a trail and what was topography. So we have a lot of teams just, going the wrong way there and taking a lot of time, which really pushed them later on. And like you were saying, Alyssa, they did end up having to skip quite a few of those checkpoints that were right at the end. So once they're in the pass and they've found they've gone the right way, then we have kind of a reward here. We've got 17. That checkpoint 17 right there, was a blue. It was right on the road. It was like, here you go. Good job. You found the right road. You get
that endorphin rush.
Oh my gosh.
For just a few. Yeah,
You can imagine that all of these people who went up this other one, when they finally went the right way and they got that blue, they were very happy to see that. But right after that, we did have that black diamond that if they were really looking at their map closely and measuring the distance here, that if they just went ahead and drove this distance from that blue, that they would be able to just signal and continue. And that was the idea behind that one. It was not going to be easy to read on the map. As you can see, there is a lot of topography that looks very similar, so it would be very hard to read. Now, one thing that they would be able to tell is they would be able to tell the heading of this road, so they know what heading this road is at, and they'd be able to look down the road and kind of take a heading. One of the things that Emily definitely said about yesterday in the driver's briefing was to get out and take a heading often, right? Especially at every junction. Now, whether they did that or not, you can see here, we can tell they did not. At this point, you know that they know that they want to go down this way to the next checkpoint and heading south. But if you zoom in on this looks like just as big of a road as this one here. And so unless you actually popped out and took a heading of this road or this one, especially in the afternoon when the sun is high, it's really hard to tell what is north. And so they might have thought that they were heading south east when they took that instead of just directly to the east. But everyone who did that, also figured it out and either came back or just took this next road and came down. But you could see that this was the much shorter route to follow down here to these next checkpoints. When I look at the map, I'm like, it's very clear which way to go. Again, making that plan is one part of navigation, and actually making it happen on the ground is another.
Sure, and like you were saying, like no one's going to want to follow somebody else because then you don't know where you are if you take the bait.
Right.
But it's so hard not to. Look, we're I think we've got to start moving on. Can you sum up just kind of what the leaderboard did yesterday morning and kind of like what that looked like? We had 13 cars with nearly the same score at the end of day one.
That's right.
And then day two was definitely a filter through which some cars got some more distance between them.
Right, and now we're going to start to see that those standings actually start to shift here. So we can see that that Nina and Tara Lynn already have a checkpoint for the day. So these standings are including today.
Today, okay.
But what we saw yesterday, so if we look at the daily totals here, we can see that on day two, we have Piper and Young. They got 210, which is a very, very impressive score. They really moved through there.
They were awake and ready yesterday. They were the most ready team I looked at and chatted with yesterday.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out a couple of other people here. We've got 122. And these guys, Toby and Kara, they are really, they're good competitors. This is not their first year. They've done this multiple times. I think that this is their third year. There you go. So like Alyssa was saying before, that that first year you come in to learn the game, the second year you try to go for the win, and the third year you might actually have a chance at doing it. And so they're here on their third year, just really cooking. I know that they practiced a lot and that they took a lot of classes. They came out to a lot of different classes. They were at the Rebelle U.
I think another sleeper each year has been Carissa and Trista here.
Yes.
They've shown a lot of skill at different times, and to be there after a day like yesterday, they're definitely in the hunt as well.
Absolutely. They are someone else to watch for sure.
If you look down the list, our 100% Rebelle Sedona there is in fifth.
Yep, Sedona, and tying there on yesterday's score with Carissa and Trista. And those, this is still a very, very good score here. But you really saw after yesterday something that didn't happen on day one. Day one, we had a lot of ties here in the top 10. We had a lot of ties all the way through through the 10th place, we had people tying. And then on day 2, we have it really started to spread out. You know, everyone is starting to spread out here. And in the top 10, we had much more of a spread by the time you got there.
Can I point out one more? Tied for 8th place yesterday was Samantha Barber with, I think it's, I've got to remember her co-driver's name. Yes, Caitlin. Caitlin's a rookie. They're a Toyota team, but their day 1.
Where are they?
They're tied for 8th. Their day 1 wasn't that strong, but look at day 2. Yesterday, with Sam Barber's experience really showing there with a score of 200, which ties with the very
really
best
good.
teams. Yeah, so it's really fun to watch how the teams, do better from one day to the next with different challenges.
Yeah, I'd imagine that Caitlin and Sam were probably just getting into it on that day 1 and learning each other because they haven't competed together before. But even Caitlin, as a rookie, she came to Rebelle. She's very sharp, and you just know that she was going to do really well. And with Sam at her side as such a great navigator, I'm not surprised to see them up there on day 2, especially when it gets hard like that. That's where teams like that are going to shine.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see them all come in today because yesterday was so difficult. It was a cold night. It was a tough morning. They're having a tough morning right now. So I can't wait to see how the second day of the
marathon
competition,
goes.
the marathon leg you designed goes for everyone. I can't wait to hear everyone's opinion of the marathon leg, which I'm sure they will share with you and the rest of your team as they arrive.
Yes, they
will. And so speaking of the rest of our team, Katy, I think Katy has found another. She's like, what is it, Goldilocks, who goes around looking for the softest place to sleep. Goldilocks, who do you have with? Who are you with now?
Goldilocks is still here. We are right behind the scenes. I'm standing in front of the Renewable Innovations vehicle and also where we get our water here in this giant tanker. And live team, you'll be pleased to know Goldilocks has also found us food. I just talked to Drew Diekman and he's making a hot meal. And guess what? The bright side of this morning is there will be no line. But I've come upon something curious. Kramer just told me that this means Cresta Butte Princess. Now this is the kind of accommodations I'm looking for. And this is where Stephanie Prater lives. Good morning, Steph.
Hello.
Can I come in, please?
Sure. Come on in, lady.
Hey, Leanne.
Hey, good morning.
Can I sit down? Is there coffee?
Yeah, we can make some coffee.
Oh, you don't have to make it. Drew's on coffee, so we can do that later. No stress. How are you this morning, Steph?
Just chipper and bright, you? It's early for interviewing.
So it's very early. Emily, it's very early for behind the scenes. Stephanie's in her pajamas. Now, Stephanie is the Rebelle Rally base camp designer. Let's just leave that right there. The Rebelle Rally is a base camp designer. Talk to me a little bit about how long you've been doing this and how many base camps you have built since this started 10 years ago.
So I've been involved since its inception in 2015. So in the beginning, I wasn't doing nearly what I'm doing currently. I've learned a lot along the way, as well as everybody else has with this event. So I've done, I guess, around 40 base camps, in the decades.
And so we all know that you're packing up as soon as it's time to leave one base camp. So how many base camps on average do we have on each Rebelle?
3 normally. We're usually like a 3, a 2, and a 3, somewhere along in those lines. It's changed a little bit throughout the years, but basically 3 base camps every rally.
And so as a Rebelle that competed, coming back to base camp was the most wonderful thing at the end of each day. It felt like returning to home. And every single base camp felt different to me. Have you ever repeated the same theme in a base camp?
I try not to. It's important for me, as well as I think everyone else that comes in for the first time, to see something new and fresh and exciting, and something to be stimulated and you come back to a base camp each time and be like, wow, look what she's done now. And occasionally I will reuse props from time to time in a completely different fashion, though. I don't ever want my base camps to look the same. So
talk to me a little bit about the inspiration process. Like, how do you come up with these amazing ideas? Every time I'm blown away.
A lot of times Emily and I will work together on the concepts, I like to throw in a little whimsy, a little color, a little wild. She kind of likes to throw in the landscape colors that we're working with, so I keep that kind of stuff in mind. You know, they inspire me a lot because of, like I said, the landscape and the terrain and the foliage and the coloring and those kind of ways. But then, you know, to bring a ceiling down in a massive 10-foot tent to where it feels homey, you've got to have big obstacles above you to get that, because we're usually, you know, in like a 20-foot high ceiling sort of range. So the bigger the props, the better for me, and that's tricky and expensive. And you know, actually, Emily's never really given me a budget on the Rebelle, which is nice in a way, but I tend to, you know, be the one that likes to save money and be a little bit more frugal. And all my life, depending what I've been doing, I've always been really good at that. So I can come up with creative ideas that don't have to cost a ton of money.
But it doesn't look like that at all. They're amazing. What's your favorite base camp?
This might be one of my favorites, actually, because we've really captured the essence of 10 years of Rebelle with these beautiful poster or banner images of the girls and the landscape and the terrain, and it softened it a little bit with some chiffon.
You did, yeah, it's really feminine with all the chiffon. It's great. So what is your mission for today? Or do you get a day off, or have I just ruined it by waking you up?
No, today's casual. We're just waiting for the Rebelles to return. We'll go back in and kind of fluff up the tables and bring back out the centerpieces, and I'll probably get a hike in, which I enjoy.
Nice. Have you done your push-ups this morning?
I've done 50 so far, Katy.
Oh, damn you.
50 squats.
Oh.
I'm on point. I'm up and at 'em and early and ready. Yeah. I'm going to win this thing, by God.
Steph's going to win, team. We've got a push-up challenge on our team. Back to you, Alyssa and Matthew. I hope you've done your push-ups.
Good luck today, Rebelle.
Nope.
I have to
not.
admit, I did a lot of squats this morning just with the goal of warming up my body.
Yeah.
But I have not done my push-ups yet. I will admit to that. And because I'm a newbie, I think I'm being hazed. The first day I was given a 200 push-up challenge, which I did meet, but I don't think I did any yesterday or yet today. So I will
She
get
was
on
serious when she came to me. She's like, I know I'm the new one here, but am I being hazed? I
Is
was
this
like,
a real thing?
No, everyone's doing it this year. It's a new thing.
I think we might have lost Katy now that I see where Stephanie sleeps every night.
Yeah.
We might have lost her on the live team. I think she's going to be joining Stephanie's team at Rebelle 11 next year. We might all be joining that team because that looked like a pretty cushy way to spend our evenings. And Katy, I think the thing that resonated with me most out of that interview was the first thing you said was, let's just pause for a moment. The Rebelle Rally has a base camp designer. That's how much thought and detail goes into creating this. And Stephanie is spending a year creating these beautiful, magical, I remember almost every base camp I've been at. Mm-hmm. And some of them last a day, 2 days. And so that same intention and thought is put into something that is put up for a couple of days, just so that when the competitors walk into that space, they feel, you know, it's homey, it's warm, and they feel how special it is to be on this particular competition. And that's not something, they don't have to do that, but it is really a marquee part of the Rebelle Rally.
For sure. And there's a lot of things that competitors do that are not comfortable. And so you're trying to make the community feel comfortable in that space where they have food and plot and have meetings and such.
Yeah, and look how you're seeing her work, Stephanie's work this year, and all those beautiful photos from over 10 years of the Rebelle Rally. So with these gorgeous photographs.
And I've learned what chiffon is.
Yeah, Matthew now knows what chiffon is. So stick around. We'll be right back after this break.
Pavement is optional. Total Chaos equipment is built for travel. Introducing our newest project vehicle, Seabiscuit, a Lexus GX 460. It combines luxury interior with performance off-road components. It's outfitted with our newest suspension package, designed specifically for KDSS models. Explore more.
Welcome back to the 10th anniversary Rebelle Rally live show presented by Toyota. If you're just joining us, this has been a really fun morning. We've been having the opportunity to meet a few of the staff who really make the Rebelle Rally run. Katy, thank you for these incredible interviews this morning. This is day 3 of the Rebelle Rally, and today's show is brought to you by Bilstein.
I love that in the background there, you can see our solar flowers are awake and aware. We're mostly a fully solar-powered base camp here. Sorry, I just didn't want to miss that opportunity to point it out. Back to Bilstein. Bilstein's making a new line of off-road dampers. If you've been in any competition motorsports over the years, then you're familiar with the suspension company Bilstein. They make all sorts of off-road capabilities. If you've been down to maybe the Baja 1000, you've seen some huge applications where they've got these massive dampers on some buggies and other trucks. But lovely to have their participation and support this year, and I'm curious to see what kind of new stuff they've got coming out.
All right, so we had the opportunity to spend some time with our competition director and really talk through the competition yesterday, day 1 of the long marathon stage. But let's take a look at our leaderboard and see after now 2 and a little bit of a third day. So what you're seeing is the live overall standings. So some of those teams at the top there might have a few more checkpoints this morning. They most of them left base camp around 6:45, 7 a.m. And so you see that team, Chrissie, the first day we were out here, Emily said, look at team 122. They are back. They are my dark horse. I think they have a chance to win. Chrissie pointed them out, Levinchka and Carlson in that Ford Bronco Raptor. This is going to switch throughout the day as teams collect. There are a lot of points out on the course today, but it is no surprise to see them lingering up there at the top. I can't wait to see what the end of this day looks like.
Speaking of right now lingering at the top, our team Honey Badgers, they're 5th currently for the day so far. So we'll look a little further down. You can have a peek and see where your team might be. You know what Chrissie was showing earlier, where you could see the color track? That's really, if you nerd out at home on some of the data available to you, you can really see exactly what turns your team has taken.
Yeah, so now we're looking at the current rankings of the Pennzoil Challenge and the Scorpion Tire Challenge. And so those are challenges, those are sort of games within the game. If you're running Pirelli tires, if you're running Pennzoil in your vehicle, you have the opportunity to also be competing against all the other teams who are doing the same thing. And then the leaderboard of those 2 challenges are going to win a donation to a charity of their choice at the end of this competition. So these are really fun, competition within the competition.
Cool. Well, we've got a little bit, we've got some schedule here for you. An exciting show promised for sure here at 5:30 today as they complete their first marathon of the Rebelle Rally for the year. Then tomorrow morning, we'll see you again at 6:45 in the morning. Tonight's show again, 5:30 to 6:30. I think teams will be probably managing their time a little more aggressively today, and we'll have a lot of teams back then.
And let's just remind everyone that is Pacific time, here local time, so 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right, Matthew, this has been a really fun show. I think it was, had potential to be a difficult show without any of the competitors here. And Katy, thank you so much for such a fun morning and giving us all the opportunity to really go inside what makes this place tick, what makes the Rebelle Rally so special. Tonight's show, I cannot wait to see these teams start to cross the finish line. I think we're going to have a range of emotions. We're going to see that leaderboard change so much within the next 5 hours. So please join us again at 5:30 p.m. for our next show right here live from Base Camp 2 just west of Tonopah, Nevada. And as you can see, the sun is now up and my gloves are off. And can't wait to see you right back here again this evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much. This has been Rebelle Rally Live presented by Toyota.